Hello, hello, can you hear me now? Cool, man. Put that right there. Man, I spent so much time trying to figure out what to say, man. And I realized that all I was trying to say was, this is me. And the only way to do that is to just turn the camera on, right? So, and open my mouth, because I have a lot of thoughts, and I bet you have a lot of thoughts too. And in this world, it seems really hard just to open our mouths, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel difficult to open your mouth and just say something that you think? When you separate all the power, the desire, the outcome you're trying to get, and just say what you think without any consequence of the outcome. Not to think about, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? What do I think about this thing or that thing that they're telling us to talk about? Man, I'm so sick of the politics. Like, I did that stuff before, and I went down that road, and I had some very strong political opinions, but I've gotten to understand everybody a little more lately, and I understand a lot more how it feels to feel the way you might feel, or feel like you feel right now. But that's kind of the point of this right here, is to share me with the world, and maybe I have something to offer. And I don't know quite what that is yet, man. This is my journey. I'm just a guy in the middle of his life, hopefully, if I was to live to see 90. But I don't have my toes or my fingers crossed on that one. But if I could get another really good 5 years, that's like a worthy goal, right? So I'm gonna treat the next 5 years like it's the rest of my life. Like that country song, where the dude started living like he was dying. And I think that's not a bad way to live. It's been working out pretty good for me lately. I like who I'm becoming. And there's still a lot of me that needs to be dispensed with. And I'm working day by day at it, sticking to the goals I set for myself, making sure I show up in the gym, making sure I watch what I put in my mouth, making sure I maintain a hobby that I love, making sure every day I open my mouth and share my journey, because I don't want any more crap in my closet, you know? It got pretty full and cluttered, and it made the world a scary place, man. But if you're not afraid of tomorrow, today can be really, really great. And a whole lot of those could happen. I've watched my country sell its soul for safety and security. And we all know this country was a better place 100 years ago than it is today. Now, you've got all the reasons to dispute that. Racial inequality, all these sorts of things, and we could bark down all those roads. But just the numbers across the board, statistics don't lie. Every group of people in America was doing better 100 years ago than they are right now. We're like in debt, spent to the hill. I heard recently about an app where you could buy food for delivery and spread the payments out over 3 months. Like, there's no way to keep up with that, you guys. You can never spend more money in a month than you earned in that month. And you can't take on debts that exceed a budget that you know that you can live within annually over a predictable period of time using the lowest figure. It's like so common sense, and our whole country used to know that. And people live within their means, and they owned land, and they worked, and they paid off that property in very short amount of time, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, not 30 years, you guys. 30-year mortgages. Yeah, I got a lot of things to say, man. There's a lot of things that we could all benefit from if we started thinking about things that we might think about if we were doing the thinking, you know? But we spend so much of our time thinking about what the news tells us to think about and dividing ourselves up into little groups that don't like the other little groups. But all those groups are being controlled by the same small groups of people. Like, is it that hard to see? Does anyone actually think that a bigger house or a fancier car, any of those things will make you happy, man? I've been hanging out at the beach when I can, and I find really good people at the beach. And I find good conversations with strangers. People who are doing something they can afford to do that's a lot of fun. It's relaxing, it makes you feel better, it feels rejuvenating. It's really beautiful to watch the ducks and the bugs and the birds and the sun. We can see the sun and the moon right now, which is really cool. In the daytime as the sun's setting and the moon's right here. Maybe you could see it in the trees. I meet really nice people here who are trying to get their lives better, and they want to have some fun too, and this is really economic fun. I spent $10 because I got some refreshments, snacks, you know, nuts and seeds. There's a lot for gratitude to be awarded. I'm looking at this river and the water's clear. I can see straight to the bottom. We live in such a beautiful place. There's so much opportunity for love. But we're somehow addicted to the latest and greatest and next new, have to have, sugared up, oiled up, drugged up, malnourished psychologically, covering up with antidepressants. Depression means something has to change. Does that make sense to you guys? Depression is your body telling you this isn't what we're supposed to be doing. Something is wrong. What is the something? It's the something screaming at you the loudest. It's the biggest problem that you know of, and it requires your maximum attention to solve. Like, that's why you're depressed. It's supposed to say, hey, get up and make it, or lay down and die, but we don't need you right here. You belong somewhere else, doing something else, fulfilling something else. I try to imagine what it would be like to be a doctor on a schedule, to see a patient for 6 minutes. Like, I would tell the hospital to go fuck themselves so fast. I would be like, this guy's here. It's the third time he's been here. This problem's persistent. All we're doing is giving him pills. Let's figure out what the problem is. Clearly, the issue isn't natural, so maybe we'll check out the unnatural things he's putting in his body and see if they might be having some effects on the issues we're seeing right here. That would be a really cool place to start, right? So I'll be done with my patient when I get done, and then they would fire me because I don't comply. As a business owner for 20 years, I realized I don't have any idea what it's like to have a master. And in any position of being a master, I tried to be always the most kind, to the point that I got trampled over and over and over. Because people don't respect weakness. They have respect for authority, but mostly they're driven by fear. So much of what everybody is saying is out of fear of what they've seen happen to somebody else happening to them. I refuse to live my life that way. They're gonna have to execute me or put me in prison or take my phone away, put me on that list of people, because I won't stop speaking what I think as I think it, and that won't stop changing as I observe and experience the life in front of me, and I will share that life, likely for the rest of my life, because I realize that I'm living a very different life than most of you are, and I had no idea. I spent the last 30 years in the zone, man. I've never had an evil woman in my life. I never lived a hookup culture, though I lived a pretty wild life. It did some pretty wild things. It was on the up and up with my other person. And those are stories for another time, but likely never, because with the exception of two, I am my first and my last. I'm still friends with my exes. All of them for the last 25 years, except for the first and the last. And so the first I knew it was all my fault, but the last I had never seen something like that before, man. 45-year-old man waking up from a trance. I had no idea, but now that my eyes are open and I'm looking around, she's not special, she's not unique, she's not some kind of like mystery woman. She's the norm now. Come on, you guys, that has to change. You gotta find love for one another again. And you find that through honesty, by telling the truth all of the time. That's how it's done, you guys. You have to tell the truth. You have to tell the truth. All the time, you guys. No matter how ugly it is, and no matter what the retribution might be. Because our society is lying to itself and fighting for no reason, for no benefit, for no gain, fighting to actually make themselves weaker. And we've watched that pattern happen over and over and over from the 60s till now. Every time a time of peace comes, when the negotiations are over, we end up with less than we had before. I'm like the last generation that can say I did better than my parents. Come on. There's a whole generation right now invested in nonsense, shoved right down their throats from the university system. They have no real life experience. And they've had before them the last generation that did better than their parents, holding their hands and walking them off a cliff. Yeah, I get why they're upset. I understand why they think that their solutions will work. And that's why I try to get all of them to read history, like actual history from old history books, and read the stories written by the people who were in these concentration camps, and read the writings of Adolf Hitler. As awful as it is, read it. Hear what he thought in his own words. It will terrify you because you will agree with much of it. As it's being written, in part, it's very, very, very poorly written book, and it's very cumbersome to read through. But the philosophy therein, I don't think that the modern American disagrees. That terrifies me because we all know what happens after that. And then we have Napoleon, we have Caesar. We have so many examples of what happens when what's happening right now happens. And our masters know, and that's why they're orchestrating it. It's a tremendous power grab by the elite. And we're helping to make it happen for them. And this too will lead to the Dark Ages. You know, as soon as the communists take over, right? As soon as socialism is the law of the land, the useful idiots who did all the hard work to make it possible are the first to be exterminated. Yeah, I got a lot of things to say on a lot of stuff. I believe in love, man. I think that love is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think we are beasts of this land, tamed by a God. Every time we detach ourselves from the leadership of that God, horrible things happen. Because we start worshiping ourselves. And we are beasts of this land. It is an amazing thing that we can speak, that we can write, that we can share information from person to person. That those stories grow over generations before language was ever written in the first place. And those stories that had held us from beast to first word written, those are the stories written in the Bible. That's your history of the ancestors before you. That's your heritage. That's your knowledge of what you are. That's your DNA. It cannot be changed. You cannot will any change. Exactly what the Bible says will happen is exactly what will happen. It's what does happen. If you just read it as though it's your own life, it's exactly what happens every single time without exception. The tyrannical mother, the jealous brother, the evil woman, the tyrannical man. We're all covered. The innocence of a child should never be broken until their own time. Every word about you and everything you do, act, think, say, manipulate, try to force into existence, it's all there, man. We just have to go with our nature, guided by our word. Or we will once again be wild beasts roaming blind in the valley of the shadow of death. The history of like the Great Cataclysm or something that happened 12 or 13,000 years ago. I watch a lot of documentaries on that stuff and I read up on it. It's very, very interesting to me. Atlantis, the new research, location found, biblically correct, the Dead Sea Scrolls, biblically correct, word for word, not a single word for 2,000 years changed. Wow. Handwritten, Bible to Bible, copied and reproduced and spread globally. Not a word out of place for 2,000 years. That kind of information that they take such care of. Then we develop a printing press and we mass produce it and spread it everywhere. And then it sits in a drawer. And you don't have to go to church to get it anymore because you have it at home. And then communion stops and the teaching stops and the predators move in and they want religion taken out of school. They want God removed from the child. It takes about 18 to 20 years to corrupt the generation sufficient to mass produce itself, heading in the worst direction. Religion's powerful. The Bible's powerful because it produces educated people. And educated people collectively are extraordinarily powerful. Look at the neighborhoods of the most educated people in the towns that you live in. The powers that want God removed from your life they want it removed for power and control on this planet because God detaches the authority to make changes from us. It's above. It can't be touched. You can't negotiate with God on the word. It can't be changed. It's the only connection we have to us before the manipulative powers of language came into play. It must have been perceived as evil to speak. it must have been done in secret. There was probably a time when we were trying to kill the speaking people. The speaking people were capable of corruption in ways that the nonverbal, they simply are not. I want to go visit one of those, homes for people who are, mentally not all there. How do you call that? I still call them retarded. I don't know if that's okay to say. But when I was a kid, and in the dictionary I have from when I went to high school, retard is the correct word. I would like to observe how they communicate with one another in the homes where they're being cared for unsupervised. I bet it's very compassionate, especially amongst the nonverbal. We don't even think about things like that anymore, do we? We're so detached from our nature. I think about all of that stuff. I think this life is a miracle. It's unfathomable to think that all this is possible. Yet we want to fight and harm and take from when we could easily share everything, but then we wouldn't be motivated to do any of it, would we? Humans are motivated by growth, gain, tribal instinct. We are tribal people. I'm just trying to get the tribes to negotiate, to make treaties, to negotiate honestly without trying to fuck the other over for whatever perceived gains. There's got to be a way that we can all tell the truth. Everybody has benefit. Everybody wins. That's a good deal, right? That's what they taught me when I was a kid. My parents, my uncle, other people's parents in my neighborhood, business people I went to work for. A good deal is good for both people. Now look at your life through that lens. How many good deals do you have going on? That are equally beneficial most of the time. Because relationships are like bank accounts, you know. As long as you make more deposits than you make withdrawals, you'll always have a positive balance. People don't require daily maintenance. They require a positive balance. So I got real broken this last year, bent out of shape. I said a lot of things maybe I shouldn't have said, but I learned a lot. And I got a log to look back on myself in real time and that everybody can look back on and say that was a beat up and broken man. I know who I'm never going to be again. That's for sure. And I know things I love about me. Those things are for sure. And I'll have a whole lot to offer. And when God sees fit, He'll put the right woman who sees life through a similar lens, like me. That sees life through service. How can I be of service? How can I help make our lives a little better? I never had any regrets taking care of somebody else's kids like my own. I just knew that if I was going to take care of somebody else's kids, they would be treated exactly like my own. Because it's not fair to treat people like they're not family when you're in a situation acting like your family, right? Otherwise, it's just a facade. It's not real. When I was 14 years old, my late friend Michael Thomas Mulcahy took me in to his body shop. I showed up the first day of work stoned, and he sent me home and said, come back tomorrow, but don't do any more of this, okay? He took me under his wing and he taught me, and he treated me like his very own son. He had me to his home and to barbecues and family events and do work on his mom and dad's house. He had me with all of his relatives like I was his own child. He never treated me like I wasn't. I would never have owned a body shop without meeting him. I wouldn't have owned my house. That man guided me in the most positive and wonderful direction in life. And then he passed away, and I was in a really bummed place when he died. And 18 months later, I met my just most recent ex-girlfriend. And I was very vulnerable for the love that I missed from Mike. And she had a lot of his witty characteristics, and she really reminded me of him. They were very similar personalities, except for Mike had a good heart. Everything he did was for my best interest. And I just associated the two, man. I tied them right together, and then she had that little girl, man. And that little girl didn't have a dad. And she was a daddy's girl. And she latched on to me, man. She took my hand the day I met her, and she never let go. That's the most special thing that ever happened to me in my life. And to see that attached to so much deceit and darkness, and to watch how apples don't fall far from the tree, to observe how a mother teaches her daughters to grow up and become herself. And she's done a very good job at that. I just had so much influence in her life, and I thought that some of me had rubbed off, you know? But time is still to tell, right? And that's a prayer I'll keep praying for. Cheers, guys.